Hey everyone, get ready for another terrifying horror movie. Today I'm bringing you a film from the Popcorn series. This one is titled The Amityville Horror. It's based on the chilling Amityville murders of 1974, adapted for the big screen. Just a heads up, this movie is intensely disturbing and high energy. To my more faint-hearted friends, I suggest you tag your bravest, most resilient friends to watch it with you. George and Anna are a newly married couple forming a blended family. Their new family consists of 5 people. They were cramped in a house of just over 2,000 square feet. Desiring a better life for their children, the couple decided to seek out a much larger home. They contacted a real estate agent and were brought to view a grand, magnificent villa. Not only did it boast a picturesque setting surrounded by lush scenery, it had impressive high ceilings, and the interior decoration was incredibly luxurious. Upon seeing it, George was immediately discouraged. He knew that with their current financial situation, they couldn't possibly afford a house of this caliber. However, the agent casually informed George that this enormous villa was only $99,000. He added that they could move in immediately, just bring their bags. Furthermore, the agency fee would even be waived. The couple was instantly swayed by this unbelievable offer. George, however, was very perplexed because the price was ridiculously below market value. Under persistent questioning from George, the agent finally revealed the grim truth. It turns out that a year prior in this very house, a horrific massacre had occurred. The former father of the family not only shot and murdered all 6 members, he even claimed the house itself had driven him to it. This led the surrounding neighbors to believe the villa was cursed or possessed by something evil. That was why no one would buy it. But the couple were absolute skeptics when it came to ghosts and the supernatural. They firmly believed the father must have suffered from a psychological breakdown and had a severe mental abnormality. Faced with such an irresistible price, the two ultimately decided to purchase the house, but they were completely unaware that a terrible creeping crisis was already closing in. Soon after signing the contract, the family moved into their new home to celebrate their housewarming. That very night, the couple prepared to settle into their new bed, but the very next second, a chilling image of a little girl flashed in the mirror. George was instantly horrified by the sight. At first, he dismissed it, believing he was suffering from hallucinations due to exhaustion and overwork. He then tried to quickly fall asleep. The next day, as Anna was preparing to do the laundry, she suddenly heard her daughter's voice coming from upstairs. When she went up to check, she found her daughter Belle talking to thin air. Anna asked, "Honey, who are you talking to?" Belle replied, "The girl who lives in my closet." The girl Belle claimed was currently sitting on the stool right behind Anna. Following her daughter's gaze, Anna saw nothing but the empty chair. Later, while preparing lunch, their dog Urha suddenly started barking wildly outside. George and Anna rushed to the boathouse following the commotion. They found Belle holding a balloon, silently staring out at the lake. No matter how loudly George yelled, Belle did not react at all. George hurried to her, shouting, "Belle, hey, give me your hands. What were you thinking? You could have fallen into the water." Belle simply said she wanted to see the boat. Seeing their daughter's baffling behavior, Anna only had a few sharp words for George to prevent any similar accidents. George immediately put a lock on the boathouse door. Later, as strange things continued, George began to vaguely sense that there was definitely something very strange about this house. One night, the youngest son woke up needing to use the bathroom. He heard strange noises echoing from the ventilation duct. Terrified, he tried to wake up his older brother sleeping next to him, but his brother was a very heavy sleeper, so he had no choice but to go by himself. He mustered his courage and ran to the bathroom. After finishing, the youngest son went to the sink, but there was absolutely no water coming out. The terrified boy quickly fled back to bed and hid under the covers. Then in the very next moment, bizarre events began to unfold. All the windows suddenly flew open by themselves, and the stools in the house were rapidly moving. George was jolted awake by a loud, mournful sound. He immediately rushed to his son's room, but saw a man who looked exactly like him. Standing and staring out the open window, George quickly got up and went to close the window. He then noticed the boathouse door was ajar. A balloon was floating out of it. He immediately thought Belle had gone there again, but when he entered, no one was there. At that moment, the dog was frantically barking upstairs. By the time George got up there, he found the house was already quiet and his children were asleep. Had he imagined the whole thing? George then went into the cloakroom. A small cute doll was sitting there. George then left the room, but George couldn't return to sleep. Instead, he spent the entire night in the basement. His dog was relentlessly digging at the corners of the room. When his wife Anna arrived, George showed her the boathouse key again. He claimed he had found it in his eldest son's room. He theorized that his eldest son must have opened the boathouse door last night. As punishment for this act, George sent the eldest son into the backyard to chop and stack wood. Anna felt George had become increasingly anxious and strange recently. She suggested they both go to a bar to relax and have a night out. They hired a nanny to watch the children. The eldest son was resistant to the idea at first, but when he saw the nanny, the nanny mentioned that she used to work in this house. She told the eldest son that the 2 boys who were murdered were shot and died right in the room he was currently sleeping in. The eldest son was absolutely horrified. He had been kept completely unaware of the house's dark history. The nanny then went to Belle's room. She told Belle the story of Judy's death and revealed that Judy's body was found in the cloakroom. However, Belle was unfazed. Belle told the nanny that Judy hated her and wanted her to leave immediately. At this point, the eldest son kept taunting and provoking the nanny. He dared the nanny to go into the cloakroom alone to prove herself. The nanny walked straight in without a word. The nanny initially thought it was just the eldest son playing a trick, but despite there being no lock on the closet door, she couldn't open it no matter how hard she tried. As the lights in the cloakroom began to flicker violently, a terrifying figure appeared right behind the nanny. When George and Anna returned, the nanny was found to be hysterical and delirious. She had to be taken away in an ambulance. George was convinced that his eldest son was responsible, so he severely punished him by making him move wood in the backyard. Even the youngest son was not spared the punishment. Puzzled by her husband's increasingly abnormal behavior, Anna asked the children about what truly happened with the nanny. They told her the nanny had disrespected Judy's spirit, and so Judy had sought revenge. They added that Judy believed George was a bad person, and that they needed to be careful of him, because the windows kept flying open at night. George sealed them shut with nails. He then gathered his clothes and moved completely into the basement. Apart from punishing the eldest son, he barely left the basement. Anna grew concerned, believing things had become truly weird, so she sought out a local priest. She explained that strange things had been happening in her home. When the priest realized Anna lived in that specific house, he said nothing more. He immediately went to the villa with his exorcism tools. As soon as the door was opened, he saw the doll Belle was holding. The priest's face went pale with shock. He quickly pulled Anna out of the house. He explained that he had officiated the family's funeral, and the very doll in Belle's hands, he had personally placed it in Judy's coffin. Therefore, the doll should not be in this house. Anna's blood ran cold upon hearing this. She frantically urged the priest to enter and perform an exorcism. The moment the holy water was sprinkled on the floor, horrible things began to happen. Even when faced with such a bizarre scene, the priest remained fearless. He bravely followed a noise coming from the ventilation ducts. The very next second, thousands of FLIs swarmed the priest. A guttural, muddy sound seemed to force him out of the house. Before Anna could even ask a question, the priest panicked and sped away in a terrified rush. Anna finally understood the gravity of the situation. She proposed to George that they must move out immediately, but George adamantly refused. Little did they know that George was already under the influence of a mysterious dark force, determined to uncover the house's secrets. The next day, Anna went to the local library. She looked up the details of the tragedy that year. She discovered something even more frightening. It turned out the villa they bought was once an ancient evil church. A wizard had once imprisoned many souls there. He had not only tortured them but brutally murdered them. He then slit his own throat to keep his evil soul trapped in the house. Anna then noticed another critical piece of information. The father who massacred his entire family had exhibited abnormal behavior for 28 days before the murders. This included moving into the basement by himself. On the 28th day, the man had killed his family of 6 with a gun. Anna panicked when she read this, because today was their 28th day in the house. Desperate, Anna rushed back to the church. She pleaded for the priest's help. However, the priest told her the murderous father had also sought him out all those years ago, but at that time the priest had chosen not to believe him. It wasn't until his experience in the house yesterday that he finally believed the danger was real. The priest told Anna his power was limited. He urgently advised her to take her family and flee the building, but Anna didn't realize that it was already too late, because George, following the voices he heard, had smashed open a secret door in the basement. He entered using his flashlight to see. Inside were rows of filthy cells, and the ghosts of the Native Americans who had been killed there. A tunnel opened up before him. George went inside and saw the evil wizard. He watched the wizard take a dagger and slit his own throat. Blood splattered all over George, and George's mind was completely overtaken by the wizard's spirit. Anna raced back home. She found 4 coffins in the basement, with their names written on them. As Anna stood there terrified, George suddenly appeared right behind her. He calmly stated the coffins were made for them. Anna tried to flee with the children, but all the doors and windows in the house slammed shut and locked automatically. With no other option, they climbed out onto the roof. George also climbed out the window after them. They saw their father coming after them. The eldest son grabbed a steel pipe. He hid behind the chimney. Just as George was climbing up, the son smashed him with the pipe. But George, having fallen, soon opened his eyes again. He grabbed an axe. When Anna and the children came down, George immediately grabbed the eldest son. In George's distorted vision, the eldest son looked like a terrifying demon. Luckily, at that critical moment, Anna hit George with the butt of a gun. This blow briefly restored his consciousness. To stop himself from hurting his family, George begged Anna to kill him quickly. Otherwise, when the demon fully took over his body, everyone would be killed. Faced with the possibility of killing her beloved husband, Anna simply couldn't do it. She could only knock him unconscious with the gun butt. She and the children then tied his hands and feet. They escaped the house using the speedboat. As they sped away from the house, George finally returned to normal. Although the family managed to escape the physical house, the spirit of Judy was forever trapped there. She was there to warn the living and prevent future tragedies, but every time she was bound by a pair of large hands. The setting of this film is somewhat similar to Stephen King's The Shining. Both feature a male protagonist whose mind is slowly eroded by a dark power. Compared to The Shining is perhaps more nuanced, and its story background is clearer. But what drew me to the Amityville Horror was that it was adapted from the true 1974 New York Amityville Extermination Massacre. The real-life event itself is full of mystery and terror. This adds significant realism and chilling credibility to the film.